Greetings Ravens, FiOth here, and in this vid we will be breaking down the Kranich and in which way it can be optimally utilized to melt your enemy's AP bars. In the gameplay you're seeing right now, you will notice that just a couple combos from my lance and dual Kranichs is enough to take down the trainer AC that you find in the first chapter. It has to be said that applying this thing is not as easy or straightforward as going for, let's say, the pile bunker approach. But there are a couple of benefits here. First and foremost, this is an energy weapon, so if the enemy's energy defenses are low, this will cause even more damage. Second, it can tie into an energy build because it's plasma, of course. And third, it is ranged, although because of the way the shots are delivered, it's kinda tricky to land sometimes. I will be explaining everything tied to this build and application, so keep your eyes peeled and let's get to it. So what is this thing all about? The Kranich 60Z is a pulse cannon developed by Schneider. It's fully automatic, so for as long as you hold down the button it will keep firing. It deals an insane amount of damage in very little time, pretty much no impact whatsoever, and has a long ass cooldown period. That makes using it kind of a niche prospect. As you saw in the opening gameplay, I am using a lance to set up the stagger. I am holding nothing on my right arm, I'm just punching in case I need to put just a little bit of stagger in, and then I unload with both of the Kranichs and melt the enemy's HP. When I test this for a test spin, I want to show you just how much damage they deal. It's insane, but it comes with a couple of catches. First and foremost, not carrying anything in my right hand is not a choice. These things are so power hungry, you cannot support the usage of two firearms unless you go for a generator with huge energy capacity. What will happen if you go for a generator with bigger energy capacity? The one I'm using here, the V20B, has the best energy firearm spec out of any generator. It's literally 150, the max value. That's what makes the damage output of this thing so insane. It's the harmonics with the generator making them deadly. If I go for a generator with larger capacity, let's say this one or this one, I can put on more stuff, but I will lose some damage. The IBCO3G NGI 000 is not that bad, but still you lose 40 out of 150 when it comes to energy firearm spec. Then you can go for the V20C if you want. You lose some damage, get much more capacity, and you can load more guns. I am picking the 20B for this demonstration because it is the best damage output you can have out of these two shoulder weapons. What you want to do now is get the opponent into a staggered state and use these things to melt their HP. We're gonna go in for an AC test run and I'm gonna demonstrate just what amount of damage you can expect. So as you can see, we have our tester AC here. I'm gonna lance it. It's staggered and now I'm just holding down the buttons, and as you can see, about 50% of its HP is gone. Of course, they just now finished their cooldown cycle. What are we looking at in practice? We're looking at a tool that can deal a shitload of burst damage, after which cycle it will pretty much be inoperable for the entirety of the reload process, which is quite lengthy. Using this ideally means that you have to stagger the enemy efficiently and then be in a position good enough for you to continue the damage cycle with the Kranich. They will decimate the health pools of bosses and other slower stationary targets, but that comes with a couple of compromises. You have to be wearing really light armor. Well, wearing is a misconception. your pieces will have to have a lower EN requirement, and your right hand weapon has to be of a lighter nature. The lance itself has a pretty high energy requirement, so if you want to use it to cause stagger, you have to take energy out of something else. If you do not want to use the lance, it is going to be fine. And without me wanting to sound very meta and geeky, you can always go for an unarmed build, punch them in the face, and then have them optimally positioned to take out about 65% of their health with a good application of these things. By the way, melee builds are not science fiction, well, although it's Armored Core, so it's 100% science fiction. What I meant to say is that you can absolutely get an enemy AC into a stagger state, and for as long as you can punch, you can keep them in that stagger state. Of course, that has to do with your booster and what kind of arms you're wearing and so on and so forth, but you can utilize even your bare fists to set up the Kranichs for success. Do I suggest this to play against other ACs? I wouldn't say so. Even though they fire straight, they are still these bubbly guns that kind of spread all over the place and have travel time. They're not hit scan, but what you want to do is be both optimally positioned and have them immobile. That's best acquired when you're fighting huge ass bosses. You stun them, then you go in front of them and unload. This will also help you get out of a bind followed by a reload state. So if you just manage to empty your guns to achieve the stagger, you can then unload this as a secondary means of damage, so you will not just be looking at a prone target who can't do anything, but you cannot damage them either, except for the anime king. So these are the Kranichs, guys. You can always go for one of them. You don't have to use two at the same time. They will still deal a shitload of damage, but having two paired with an appropriate generator and the tools to cause fast stagger will deal a big chunk of damage in very little time. Just be careful, because after you apply that damage cycle, they will be pretty much inoperable for the lengthiest amount of time, and you'll have to rely on the remainder of your tools to get the job done. Hope you found this useful. I'm covering various strange armaments in Armored Core C alongside other things. I'm gonna leave a couple of my builds at the end of this one, so sub, like, hit the bell. If you want to support the channel, consider Patreon, the Buy Me a Coffee platform, get a membership here, and until next time, be well, stay frosty, and always strive for perfection. Cheers!